Let's make sure it's on. You can sleep, you sleep. Hey everyone. So, first of all, this is Otis. Say hello, Otis. Hello. He's my new little pup. So today's gonna be a little bit of a more intense topic. So I did just write a blog, and I did just release a blog yesterday about my story of depression. This is something that's been really hard for me to express, not only to like family and friends, but also to obviously like a huge social media outlet. So basically I was walking the other day with my music in, which I said in my blog if you read it, and I just started thinking about, you know, all the struggles that I have to go through on a regular basis with depression. And I thought that I wish more people who had social media influence would share their vulnerabilities with people, would express their struggles and be open about it, so that people who also go through this don't feel alone. I started thinking more, and I was like, well, I can't be one to want that when I'm not myself doing that. So that led to me wanting to do a blog and a video on this topic. So if you read my blog, all of this will kind of be the same, but if you haven't, then this will be new information and hopefully helpful information. So I wanted to go over my story and my own struggle with depression. It's been a long one, and it's still ongoing, obviously, as something like this doesn't just go away. But I thought I was finally ready to be open about it, to share my story. This isn't easy for me. This is probably one of the most closed off things that I keep to myself. Exposing it makes me extremely vulnerable, and I don't want people to think, well, my concern is that people will think of me differently, and that's kind of why I've held it in for so long. People might judge you on this, they might think of you differently, and I don't want sympathy. I feel like a lot of people reach out sometimes and explain things sometimes for the wrong reasons, and I don't want that. I want to shed the light on this topic, make people feel like they're not alone, but I don't want people to feel sorry for me, because that's not gonna help me, and that's not what I'm doing this for. Basically at 18 is when I all kind of started happening. I was at Western, which is the university I attended back in when I went to school, and I was taking pre-biomedical sciences, which is like pre-med, and then I was also swimming for the varsity team. So at that time I was probably training a good amount of like pretty much 5 to 6 hours a day. So I think the combination of just so much swimming and that stress of being on a varsity team, and you know, being in a university program, a hard program at that, and just the adjustment from high school to university, was all just so much stressors, kind of just really led to the onset of depression for me. I started feeling really different, and I find in my blog I'm able to express myself more than I can through a video. It's harder, I think, to do it through a video than when I'm writing on my computer. So obviously I can express the emotions that I was going through a lot easier. But at the time I started feeling very emotional, obviously very sad. I went from periods of feeling really sad to just feeling completely numb. And if you've had depression, you know what that feels. It's almost like you don't really feel anything at all. For me, it felt like I was just not the same person. My personality wasn't the same. I wasn't outgoing and passionate about swimming and all these things that I once was. I was just there. I was just kind of going through the motions, going to practices, doing my work, but I wasn't happy. I was just living. I wasn't enjoying anything about it. I started getting really worried because this went on for quite some time, almost 3 or 4 months. So at that point, I mean, I was feeling emotional, I was feeling sad, I wasn't enjoying anything, and pretty much was just sleeping as much as I could, because that was really the only time that I felt like I could escape this loneliness, this numbness that I was feeling. And you know, it hasn't been easy to admit that I've needed help, but I have. And so at this period in my life, when I was 18, I decided, you know, I was having thoughts that just weren't right, and I knew it was time to get help. So I talked to my mom and my dad, and obviously they're quite supportive, so they told me to go and talk to somebody. So that's when I went and talked to a psychiatrist and at Western, and this is kind of where things started going uphill for me. So I decided early on with my struggles to get help, and it was probably the best decision. It was the best decision I could have ever made. So I went to see a psychiatrist, and we started a plan of action. Obviously, we worked on different exercises to cope with the mental aspect of it all, and then I also was on medication. So as I said in my blog, I'm not one to preach certain ways for people or what people should do or promote things. I'm just telling you exactly what I did and what worked for me. I'm not one to push medication, and I don't think that like you should just go on medication. I'm just saying that this is the plan of action that was taken for me, and this is what my story is. So I started medication, and things really turned around for me. So I started feeling like myself again. I started enjoying things again. I started just being me. A lot of that like numbness was gone. That loneliness was gone. That feeling of nothing was gone. I felt happy again. I was able to laugh when I heard something funny. I was able to cry. Like everything was just back to normal in the sense of how I felt before this whole onset of depression occurred. That was about 6 years ago. So fast forward 6 years, and I still struggle with this every single day. As much as that was a period that I was able to overcome it and move on and be happy, later, maybe I think it was another year, it started happening again. Obviously not to the same extent, and I still do have periods of time where I just get extremely down and depressed, and I don't think that's anything that will ever change. I've come to realize that depression is real. It's not something that people have in their head and they make up, and I explain it in my blog, that a lot of the times I feel extremely selfish for feeling like this, because a lot of the times I will be living my life perfectly fine. I will be happy. I will be working out. I'll be, living my dreams. I'm financially stable. I have my health. I have so many things to be grateful of, and then I get just extremely depressed, and I have no control over it. And as much as people think that you do, if you have experienced this, you don't. And as much as you can do things to help, which I have, I've tried pretty much everything, obviously they're going to help, but there is not going to be one single thing that's just going to get rid of it and you'll never have it again. For me, this is something that's real, and not only do I have the depression, but I also have a lot of anxiety that comes with it. I have times where I just feel so anxious about things that my throat and chest and everything got so heavy and closed up. I used to have periods where I would have anxiety attacks, panic attacks, because I would just put so much stress on myself about things. And obviously there's a period of avoidance when you have anxiety. You just kind of push everything off because the feeling of dealing with it is so overwhelming. So all these things, they're not just going to go away. I've grown a lot in 6 years. I've learned a lot, and I've grown extremely much in the fact that I'm able to handle these things a lot better. I'm stronger, and that's what's made this, for me, be able to handle it better. But it's not just something that you experience once, most likely, and then it just never comes again. And I think for me, it's important to know that there is help out there. Anytime that I would feel down over the course of those 6 years, I would book an appointment and I would see my psychiatrist. And just having someone to talk to, someone who's unbiased, someone who doesn't judge you and makes you feel like you're not the only one, it really is empowering, and it can make you really understand that you aren't alone in this, and it can really help. I think the biggest thing is to know that if you are experiencing this, don't just avoid it and don't just pretend it's not there, and don't let it take over your life, which it will, but instead get help, because there's so many resources out there. And I think that's the one thing that people don't understand, is that as much as there's so much stigma towards this, there is so much help out there too. And I think if you're experiencing this, you shouldn't experience it alone. You should be able to reach out to people. And I wrote this. It was hard. I think people don't really, this is something that I've kept to myself for a very long time, and something that I don't want. It was piece of me that I felt closed off about. I didn't want people to know. And writing this, I opened the door, but I also opened the door to help so many others along with it. And to me, showing that part of me, showing that vulnerability was worth it, if in the end it's going to help somebody. So I hope that you guys can understand that you're not alone if you are suffering. I hope you can read my blog and relate to it, and I'm sure if you are experiencing depression and anxiety, you will. And if you ever need anything or anyone to talk to, you can reach out to me. But just note that getting help doesn't mean you're a failure. Getting help doesn't mean you're crazy. Getting help doesn't mean any of these things. It just means that you're taking control of your life and you're choosing to be happy, because living with depression will take that away from you. So the real thing that I want you guys to take away from this video and from my blog is that if you are struggling, not only are you not alone, but you should get help. If you ever get to a point where you're thinking of things that you just make sure that you don't, just make sure to get help. Because I know when I was 18 and I started having thoughts because I just didn't know if I could take the pain anymore and to live the way I was living anymore, that's when I got treatment. And I can honestly say that if I didn't reach out and I did not go and see a psychiatrist and I did not go and get a plan of action, plan of help, that I'm not sure that my life would be what it is today. Actually, it wouldn't even be remotely close. I would probably still be living in that dark hole, or to be honest, I don't even know if I would be here. So that being said, it's just important for you guys to know you're not alone. And if you need to share your story, don't be afraid to. Yeah. It's not easy. I sit here and I feel like you probably think this is so easy for me to just say, but no. It's not. But it's real. This is real. It's the reality of it. And like I said in my blog, depression is always going to be a part of me, but I refuse to let it be something that defines me. And despite all the struggles I faced, despite all the struggles I'll probably have to face moving forward in my life, I always come out of them stronger, and I always come out of them with growth, and I always come out of it with being a better person, understanding life to a better degree, understanding and being more grateful for things. I think that's also the biggest thing. It really teaches you how much enjoyment and how much you should enjoy life, because when you are taken away that, when enjoyment isn't there, because you are stripped of feeling anything or any happiness, that you really do appreciate the times that you are feeling good, and the times you are being yourself, and the times you are happy, because not everyone gets to feel happy every single day. Not everyone gets to enjoy life the same way that others do, and not everyone goes through life without these struggles, but to be honest, most people do. And I don't think it's to be something you should be afraid of. I don't think it should be something you're ashamed of, and I don't think it should be something you should hide. And today I took the stand of not being afraid of it anymore, and not hiding it anymore, and being brave.